Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I got a couple 49ers developments from the NFL Scouting Combine. Well, I'd say one notable development, and then the other one is basically nothing has changed. With the nothing has changed, that would be Brandon Aiyuk. I know Ian Rappaport talked on the NFL Network about the 49ers being open to trading Brandon, and I think a lot of people kind of jumped on that bandwagon. But really, nothing has changed on that front at all since when John Lynch spoke to the media on Wednesday. So I'll get into that in a little bit. But to me, the big development on Saturday was when Josh Simmons, the outstanding offensive tackle from Ohio State via San Diego State, he met with the media and he confirmed that it was a patellar tendon tear in his left knee that sidelined him for the season. He sustained that during Ohio State's loss at Oregon in mid-October. He underwent surgery. Neil Alitrosh was the surgery well-known surgeon in Southern California, performed that. Now, Josh Simmons says he's ahead of schedule and things are looking up. He said he expects to be, in his words, cut loose for his pro day in mid-April. But the original reports, everything I read early on, was that it was an ACL, which is completely different than a player having the patellar tendon. And I'm going to go with Dr. Narv Pandya. Um, he responded to my tweet by saying, if you look at NFL players who have suffered patellar tendon tears over the past 15 years, the return to play rate after surgery is around 50% with a drop in performance statistics. As much as surgical techniques have advanced, this is still a tough injury to deal with. And the reason I bring that up with Josh Simmons is because I think when you look at the 49ers and if they were to go offensive line in the first round, all things being equal and him being healthy, I think Josh Simmons would have been the guy most likely to take. And he had even said during his availability on Saturday that some teams, and by the way, the 49ers have had a formal interview with him. John Lynch took part in that. Those two are able to connect because of their San Diego area ties. But he did say that some teams have talked to him about starting off at guard, playing there for a couple years before transitioning to the outside and playing offensive tackle. And when you look at the 49ers, that very well could be the path that they would take with Josh Simmons if they were to select him, with Trent Williams coming back for next season. So the idea, though, the patellar tendonitis or the patellar tendon tear, 49ers have had some bad luck when it comes to that injury. And Drake Jackson, something similar. I can't say it's the same. I'm sure it's not the same, but something similar. Weston Richburg, something similar. Mike McGlinchey, something similar. So that's a tough one. And if you're going to be investing in the number 11 overall pick, for an offensive lineman, let's just say that there's a 75% chance that he will pan out if all things are equal and he's healthy. And then you kind of add into that 50-50 rate that Dr. Pandya talked about. It kind of makes you wonder if that would even be the right play for the 49ers and the medicals for Josh Simmons now at the combine, when they recheck him later, if he is able to take part in his pro day, all that will factor in. So, based on the news of Saturday, I would think it would be a really big risk to take him, Josh Simmons, as an offensive tackle at number 11 overall. Okay, now the news, I got home and people at work were blowing up my phone about reports about Brandon Aiyuk. Well, there was talk earlier in the week that teams had contacted the 49ers about Aiyuk. And John Lynch certainly didn't back down from that, or he didn't deny it at all. And he was asked about that on Wednesday. And so, from what I understand, what Ian Rappaport was reporting on Saturday, there's nothing new there. Are the 49ers interested in trading him? I wouldn't go that far. Would they be open to trading him? Absolutely. I think they've been, basically through the years, the only guy I think they said who is not on the trade market is Nick Bosa, and that was heading into the big contract that he signed. But here's what John Lynch had to say about Brandon Aiyuk. He said, and people, teams calling about him. What John Lynch said was that typically happens with really good players. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, having similar conversations. You get calls, and so 2 years ago, he could have either been referring to Bosa or Debo Samuel. But he said you get calls and you always listen to calls. I think since Kyle and I have been here, we've been certainly a top five, I believe, top number two cash spending team in 4 years. Going into the fourth year, I think we're the fourth highest cash spending team. So at some point, you have to reset a little bit or at least recalibrate. You can't just keep pressing the pedal. And I think there's some good that could come out of it. We need to get younger. I think we're the oldest team in football trying to make a run at the deal last year. And I think it's good to constantly get younger. So, kind of interesting how he took that question about Brandon Aiyuk to talk about the need for getting younger. But the fact of the matter is, I think with Brandon Aiyuk, he is one of the guys on the younger side. Yes, he's now on his second contract, but it would surprise me, I suppose, especially in an off season where they do figure to move on from Debo Samuel. It would surprise me if they also moved on from Brandon Aiyuk. And you look at the cap consequences, and I'm just going to throw out some kind of rough numbers here, but if the 49ers were to trade Brandon Aiyuk, currently he's scheduled to count 10.75 million against the salary cap for this coming season. If they were to trade him, the paid money from his signing bonus last year would accelerate and he would count about 18.4 million. So he would cost on the cap this year basically $8 million to trade him. Now, the downside or the upside of that would be that money would be totally off the books for next year for the 2026 season, and that would be when some more high price dollars kick in as far as Brock Purdy and others. Debo Samuel, it certainly looks like he's out the door. John Lynch said that they will do everything they can to honor his request of a trade. Debo Samuel will be with another team in 2025. The question is, can the 49ers trade him and now absorb $31 million in dead money? Or do they just release him with a post June 1 designation that would create $5 million this year, and then 20 million would accelerate to the 2026 NFL salary cap? So that's kind of the thing I'm looking at here. I don't think anything has changed with Brandon Aiyuk at all in the last few days. I think the 49ers would be interested in trading him, but it'd have to be a really good deal. And it would also have to be it would be a concession, I guess, or they would be admitting a major mistake in signing him to that big contract a year ago. The other part of the equation would be they would then be heading into the 2025 season without the top two receivers they had on the roster heading into the 2024 season. No Debo Samuel, no Brandon Aiyuk. So therefore, the 49ers top receivers as of now would be Jawan Jennings, who will probably be the top receiver regardless. Ricky Pearsall would be the number two guy. And then Jacob Cowing, who really didn't produce much at all as a rookie. And they did mention when I talked to John Lynch for the 49ers Talk podcast, he did mention that the 49ers expect, they hope, Jacob Cowing to make a major step forward in production this year, perhaps as their primary slot receiver. So that's kind of the update from Indianapolis. Even though I'm not in Indianapolis right now, made it home on Thursday, and but some notable happenings and some stuff with 49ers ties. Like I said, the Josh Simmons thing to me is interesting. Will really be interested to see how he checks out as far as what teams assign him as far as an injury grade, and if the 49ers are willing to take that risk. at number 11. Some of the other offensive linemen they could take there. I don't think Will Campbell will be there, but Kelvin Banks is a possibility. Armand Mimbu. Those would be the main guys I would think. But Josh Simmons, to me, just the eyeball test, looks like the guy, all things being equal, has the physical skills, the athleticism to run very well in Kyle Shanahan's scheme. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, leave a comment and a like,